that bottleneck, if you really think about it, it's control and it's fear. Breaking those habits that most of us, especially when it comes to being the bottleneck and control and fear and all those things, they're conditioned patterns we've had since we were children. They don't just go away overnight.
Hey there, and welcome to Work is Third. I'm your host, Dawn Hunter, and I'm so glad you're here. This week, I'm talking with Brooke Dukes, creator of Success by Design, about the bottleneck almost every founder becomes and why breaking through starts with actually understanding who you are according to your own human design. We talk about control, fear, boundaries, and what it looks like to run a business and a life that doesn't burn you to the ground. Let's get into it. Hello, Brooke, and welcome to Work is Third.
Hi, Dawn. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm really actually in a good space today, so I'm excited for this conversation and looking forward to getting into the conversation with you. And I was going to say, how are you? But instead, I'm going to ask you what I ask every guest, which is please share a word to describe how you are doing today.
I am feeling inspired.
Ooh, okay. Tell me more. What has you feeling inspired?
Well, we're launching something pretty extraordinary in our company, and we've been working on it, and I'm really excited the value it's going to add. So yeah, it's been a long month it's been a few months, but at the tail end, it's even more, but it's been amazing.
Are you at liberty to share a little bit more about what it is that you're about to launch?
I am. Yes, we have it's a leadership operating system called Success by Design. And we've had that for, it's been a couple years now. And we've just recently, well, I shouldn't say that. My amazing IT person about 6 months ago said, you know what? I got inspired and I want to create an integration, daily conditioning within Success by Design that our members can use. And her name is Oz, as in the Wizard of. So we're really excited to launch that. We're all about integration because there's nothing without accountability and integration. And this just takes it to the next level.
Oh, I love that. I'm excited to learn more about it. But I want to take a step back and learn more so listeners can learn more too about Success by Design, because I'm really excited about the work that you do. I know we had a really fun conversation just when we first connected about like human design and about just where we're at, just changes going on, at a global level, at a societal level, and then how we navigate all of that. So tell me more about Success by Design.
So Success by Design, as I said, it's a leadership operating system. It's not coaching. It's not a program. It's really a structural layer within an organization that we install with a founder or a CEO. And it really helps on what I have found. This is my fourth business that I have started, and really my true passion project, working with small and mid-sized businesses, and particularly the founders and the CEOs. And what I have experienced, and many over my 24 years have experienced, is a bottleneck. Because what we started out with, right, we really have to be involved in most everything when we're starting out. It might be one person, two people, three people, what have you. And you're really looking at all of the pieces and you're making the decisions and you're the visionary and all the things and you're in everything. And there comes a point, typically when you get to about 6 employees, maybe about $1 million in revenue, where you recognize that you're the bottleneck, that yourself, your own capability, your own bandwidth is the ceiling for your company because everything's been flowing through you. And so what we really work on within Success by Design is creating decision rules, right? Creating accountability, so a company can look at, all right, what's the priority? What does the founder actually need to be involved in? What's important, not just what's urgent? Because what a lot of leaders do in SMBs is they're putting out fires all the time. So they end up working on the execution tasks of the business, when in reality, they need to be working at that higher level, at that CEO level, where they're making the big decisions that move the company forward. And they're honestly, when you're the bottleneck on an unconscious level, you're afraid to grow. Even if the revenue is coming in, you recognize that if we grow and I'm tapped. Like, where can we go from here? If we grow, how are we going to do it? How am I going to keep control of everything? All of those things. And that's what we tackle within Success by Design. So it's really for leaders and CEOs who have teams.
Well, first of all, I love anything being by design and rather than, just winging it. Um, but listeners of this show will know that I am a huge fan, as many past guests are as well, of Rachel Rogers' We Should All Be Millionaires. And one of the things she says, though, and tells you to do is she calls it top your team, right? She's like, you can't grow if you don't have a team. And she says, start small because you need to free your time up so that you can vision, so that you can be creative, so that you can execute on these ideas and not spend your time on the administration of the business or in tasks that you just don't really need to be giving your energy to, which is something that has been such foundational advice for me. So I'm curious about how you came to this realization through the work that you do and realize that you have something that you could offer that would help other people on their path.
Well, since you know about human design, I'm a 5-1 manifesting generator. And what I've recognized is with my design, I multitask. It's one of my superpowers. And it can also be what really stalls the company. And as I've worked with, the previous company I was with for 16 years, I started it with another person. And we were working in billion-dollar organizations. And they have the same types of problems as SMBs. It's just on a larger scale. So when I started this business and recognized that, okay, I know that I'm the problem here. And I went back and looked at all of the different founders and CEOs that I've worked with, and they all dealt with this on some level. And what I also know is what happens in your company typically happens at home. I am the center of all of it, whether it be personal or professional, and it's really exhausting. And so being a 5-1 MG, I have to teach through my experience. I can't just learn something theoretically and then teach it. I have to experience it. I've had to feel all the growing pains. I wish it was different because it can be pretty, taxing at times and painful. And I can empathize with where people are at. And I can speak from personal experience. I'm not just saying, oh, here's what I think you should do or what I've learned you should do. No, here's what I've done. And here's what I've done in 4 companies. And I have lived it. I found myself on a corporate jet in preterm labor at 34 years old. My daughter's fine, but that's what had me leave corporate America and start my first business. I gave myself shingles and COVID at the same time because
No.
really, that bottleneck, if you really think about it, it's control and it's fear. It's the fear that if I don't touch everything, it won't get done. Right? If I don't have my hands in all of it. And I get it. I have been at a point where it's like, man, this business is really doing well. If I change anything, what if it just crumbles? And it's a legitimate fear. So I wanted to create something that really anyone could use. And it's a system, a leadership operating system. You don't have to one day just say, okay, that's it. I'm not making these decisions anymore. Go figure it out. You can see in real time. And that's what Oz does, because Oz is that operating partner that you can go in on a daily basis, and it understands your human design. It knows our backbone of what we do is psychology, behavioral science, neuro-linguistic programming, human design. All of that is baked into Oz, and it can help you to be your accountability buddy. It can help you to understand, to see those blocks. You're going back to your old patterns, which we all do, because I'm sure you have been to an event or had a coach and like, I'm going to integrate everything they're talking about. It's amazing. Only a month or two later to go back to whatever you used to do because there was no integration piece to it. Because really, breaking those habits that most of us, especially when it comes to being the bottleneck and control and fear and all those things, they're conditioned patterns we've had since we were children. They don't just go away overnight. It's all about commitment and consistency, small little steps every day to change the habit. And then you let the habit get the result so that you don't break things that are working within your company. You just make tweaks so that it starts to free you up. So that's probably a longer answer than what you wanted, but I'm pretty passionate about it. So it all just comes out.
You can see that, like you can hear it. And I love that because I think that is a sign for all of us that when we're in alignment with what we're meant to be doing, it comes out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So I love the accountability piece because I was talking to someone else about the science behind belonging in the workplace. And one of the things I am always curious about is like, we know the science, we know what it takes for people to feel a sense of belonging, to have connection, to be engaged at work. And yet we don't do those things. And part of it is, I think we need constant reminders, like there is a reason that we're doing this. We want to be changing our behavior in these ways. You can't just take an annual training or do a workshop and then suddenly, as you're saying, your behavior has just changed overnight. It takes, step after step, reminders, accountability to be able to do that. And so it's great to be able to put in place a system that helps people and organizations to do that.
Absolutely. Most of all, the answer is not stay stuck, stay being the bottleneck, that you're going to hit a ceiling and you won't be able to grow beyond that, or you'll give yourself COVID and shingles like I did and realize that you don't have a choice.
I want to talk about this because it did not escape my notice that you said that happened to you, but also that you gave birth while on a corporate jet flying somewhere, which honestly, like how many of us have found ourselves in situations where we're compromising our own wellness because we feel the demands of the job. So, I mean, can you share more? What were some of the things that led that to happen? And then how did you make the realization and say, I need to change?
Well, backing up to, I won't tell you how many years ago, because then I will definitely date myself many years ago. It really, what I learned, which I'm grateful now because my daughter, she's a pro soccer player. She's amazing. There was no injury to her. So I can be grateful now because it woke me up. And what I recognized, and that was my book, Burn On, Not Out, was I was living in a way that was outside of my values. So I really had to look at why, because anyone looking at me at that point would have thought all she really cares about is success and moving up the corporate ladder and money and all. It couldn't have been further from the truth. That was not what I valued. Well, then digging deeper, what I recognized was I was a child that came from an emotional and physical abusive family. And my mother stayed in a relationship with my biological father for 10 years longer than she should have because she couldn't financially support us. So the reason why I was doing it was safety. It was fear. I looked at being successful and rising and making more money as keeping me safe. So I never was in that position. And then I left corporate America because I recognized it was just feeding that conditioning, because of course they loved it when you worked yourself to death because you got so much done. And I also think too, coming from that background, I was proving my worth, because most abused children don't feel worthy. So they're all, and as a woman, we are taught that if you just outwork them, then you'll get the promotion, then you'll get the recognition. And that's not necessarily true either. So that was the beginning of it as I was working through all of that, but it's still really coming across human design helped me to really look at, I'm still doing it. I am yes, my reasons might be different. What I'm offering to the world is so much more valuable than being in the IT firm that I was in corporate and the, all the things. But I had to dig deeper. And so that is I'm writing my second book right now. And having COVID and shingles at the same time was another wake up call. And after all these years and all this work, are you freaking kidding me? And doing it again? And so I really had to look at, what is that? What drives us to do that? And I had to take all of my, 20 plus years of experience. And that was when I left the firm that I was with, that I co-founded, and started my own, because I'm like, I know that this was my calling. This is what I am here to do. And so I'm grateful for it as well. And you brought up self-care. I mean, in my opinion, our number one success strategy is in here. It's us. It's not what some expert tells you. None of that. I'm so grateful for one of my dear friends. She always says we're either winning or we're learning. There's no such thing as failure. And I so believe that. And I feel like so many leaders wake up and think, man, I have hit this level of success that I thought I would feel different. I thought it would be easier, because especially being a Gen Xer as I am, we were taught that you work really hard now to be able to enjoy life later. And that's just not true. I mean, Harvard has done so many studies on so many people, especially boomers and Xers. They die after 5 years of retiring. So it's time to live now, take care of ourselves now, and be our best version of ourselves, so we can get so much more done in so much less time.
As a fellow Gen Xer, I definitely have been pushing back, and that's part of the podcast, right? Is pushing back against this idea that we need to be productive and working hard, right? All the time. And then we get to enjoy life later. We have to enjoy life now. We have to take advantage of what we have now. We can work in a way that is aligned, that we feel the joy in our life, and we don't have to delay it for retirement. And so I really, I love that. And I also was just making notes on to my side here, talking about living your values, which I think is very much aligned with human design, because I think a lot of people struggle to know what their values are in the first place, and that you have to be really intentional about figuring that out so that you can then take on work or pursue a path that is aligned. And the other thing I want to also appreciate you sharing is your background. When we first connected, we talked about that. I also grew up in a home where there was physical and emotional abuse, and very much the same. As an adult, I've had a strong want to control things in my environment, and also of a bit of a perfectionist. And so like those tendencies combined are like, I want to do all the things and I want them to be perfect. And that leads to burnout. And so it's really been a journey of learning, unlearning behaviors that I learned in childhood, and then saying, like, how can I be better as a human being? And then also as a leader, bringing in these lessons to the spaces where I'm working as well. So I appreciate all of that. I wanted to just, thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. But so I want to talk more now about human design, because this was something that I only became aware of probably about a year ago. And when I started going through my chart, I was really kind of blown away by how much it resonated with me. And I'm wondering if you can start by just explaining to listeners, because you are the first guest on the podcast who has really talked about human design. What is human design?
So, and I'm so lit up about it. I mean, it's really added a whole level of depth, right? Because my background predominantly is behavioral science, psychology, right? Neuroscience. And then to really understand that with human design, what it does is it is 5 different modalities, right? So it's not just this spiritual woo-woo, people sitting around a fire on a mountain, meditating or whatever. Not at all. What it's doing is it's telling you what your genetics when you were born, right? 3 months before the day you were born and the day you were born, you have a genetic blueprint. So what human design is able to tell you is what your unique gifts are. So what your area of genius is, the things that light you up, which is really important, because many leaders have been working so hard and so long. And I ask them, to your point, what do you value? What lights you up? And they look at me with this blank stare, like I have no idea, because they've shut their body down so long. And I would even say that, oh, I love to work. Well, yes. And right. I mean, There are other things in life. And self-care is probably the number one thing you need to do for your work. So with human design, it also tells you the challenges that you brought into this world that you need to learn from in order to be able to share that unique gift with the world. It tells you how best you make decisions. Hence, everything about Success by Design is you have to understand what your boundaries, your decision rules are, what you are put here to do, and how that aligns with your team and your business and all of the things. So it's a set point. It is, okay, here's how I was born, genetically born to show up in the world before life happened. And I say until we started putting on the armor to protect ourselves, right? As all these experiences happened, right? And so it shows you beneath all of that armor who you were born to be. And so then we systematically start taking off the armor to shine, to show up and give the world the value, which is why I'm so passionate about bringing it into corporate, into business, into entrepreneurs and founders. We spend most of our life there. And I have a vision to raise the world's consciousness, to make the world a better place. Well, how better to do that than to teach people who they were born to be and help them to get, to decondition all of the habits and the patterns that they've had for many years that are keeping them stuck. Most of us are making decisions out of fear, which never take us in the right direction. You understand how to stop second guessing yourself because you know how you'll feel when it's a right decision, how you'll feel when it's a wrong decision, and you'll stop beating yourself up when it's a wrong decision because you recognize, okay, I needed to go down that path to learn this lesson. I'm learning this lesson and now I'm going to get back on my path towards my vision. So it's so powerful and unique and really essential, I believe, for people to truly live a fulfilled life. Because with human design, you recognize that your strategy is following your joy. How cool is that? Not grinding it out, doing all the things you don't want to do just because no one else can do it. And if I don't do it, it won't get done. No, that's not true. It's a story that we tell ourselves.
So I actually want to pick up on one thing that you said that was really kind of astonishing to me about my own chart was there is a section that tells you how you know what yes looks like for you. And I was really blown away by it because for me it's a full body yes feeling. And
What can I ask you? What is your type? What is your type?
I'm a 5-1 generator.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And so do you know what your authority is? Are you emotional authority or sounds like you're sacral?
Emotional authority.
You're emotional. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you a little bit more about you if you'd like, or if you want to go in a different direction, I'll let you lead this conversation.
And I'll say that I was more interested in exploring it once I understood this idea of what does yes feel like to me. I describe it to people as it feels like a state of effervescence inside of me. And I've started really intentionally applying that to everything from like if I'm going to buy a shirt to if I want to take a job or a contract or like if I want to go to a concert or whatever. Really understanding like how do I actually feel about this? And if it's not a full body yes, if it's not that effervescence, then it's a no.
Yeah.
I cannot be in the in between because then I just feel frustrated.
Exactly.
But I never really realized that about myself until I had picked up this chart and started learning more about human design. Yeah. So I would love to hear more from you about, what I've shared with you and how do people who have this or, similar traits, how do we apply this?
So one of the things I want to say about it, because I learned about human design, gosh, maybe 15 years ago. And I'm like, this is so complicated. Who has time for this? So I can't do it. And I've always been if something comes to me 3 times and I have no choice, like the universe is telling me, Brooke, pay attention to this. So then it showed up about 10 years ago. And I was still like, I'm all about integration, right? If I can't integrate what I'm learning, then to me, I don't want to put my time there. And so I again set it aside. And then I learned about it, gosh, I think it was 6 years ago. And I was listening to a friend of mine turned me on to a podcast, which was Powerful Women. I can't remember what the podcast was, but I listened to the episode. I was in my car that my friend had told me to listen to. Well, because you're in your car, it just goes to the next episode. Well, it went to this next episode of this woman who was speaking about human design. And she said, it wasn't her podcast. She was a guest, just like I'm a guest on yours. And she said, she had the same experience. And she said, so what I decided to do was one, simplify it and show people how to integrate it, because her background was psychology, neurolinguistic programming, and behavioral science. I'm like, okay, I get it. I need to learn this. And so I say all of that to your listeners to say, truly, if you just knew three things about your design, and you've just mentioned those, it will change your life. So I'll speak to it as you being an emotional generator. So what does that mean? Well, a generator is your type, and your type is generators build the world. You are workers. You were put here to respond to things that come into your life, right? Like me, I'm a manifesting generator. I have the same thing. I'm supposed to respond as the generator piece of mine and inform as the manifestor piece. So I was responding to that podcast. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Responding is big because so many people, out of fear, they will just initiate. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And that's what gets us trapped, because then we're off kilter. All right. So when you know you have made a decision that is not moving you in the direction of your purpose or your vision, or however you'd like to say that, you will feel frustrated. And if you are moving in a direction, like you said, you feel effervescence, that is satisfaction. So what they do for you is, and this is what we teach, whenever you're making a decision, you want to first understand, how am I feeling right now? You're an emotional generator, which means you never make a big decision while you're in an emotional high or an emotional low. It's going to be fear-based, always. And that changed my life, because I'm like, I make decisions right on the fly. I'm so good at that. It's great. And I just go and everyone comes to me, and hence the bottleneck, right? So for those of you that have an emotional authority, you want to okay, here's the decision, and just see how you're feeling throughout the day. And just let it go. Here's the decision. Okay. And most of that day, are you feeling like, yes, it's like you said, let's go? Or is it, I'm getting a pit. I'm feeling kind of frustrated. I don't know what to do. That's a no. Or if it's a medium, then the next day you reflect back on, okay, what predominantly was I feeling in that day? Were you predominantly feeling yes, no, or I'm not sure? If it's a yes, go for it. Like, move. You don't have to worry about making a decision either, right? If it was a no, then you say no. If it was a maybe, you wait longer. Then here's the thing. Once you make the decision, sit back. See what happens. How are you feeling throughout it? If you're starting to feel frustrated, okay, great. You pivot. Your authority of frustration and satisfaction, they're like road signs. If you think of it like you're driving down the path of life and you feel frustration, okay, I took a wrong turn. Not a big deal. What do I need to learn from that? Okay, I learned it. I'm going to get back. You start feeling satisfied again. It's just such an easy, it's not really a trick, but it is a way to really start trusting yourself and understanding how you need to work, how you need to communicate, how you need to decide, how you need to really be with people. So first off is your type, which gives you your strategy. You're a generator, so your strategy is to respond. Then it's your authority. You're an emotional authority, so you need to wait out your emotions. There's 5 types and there's 7 authorities. And that's all people need to know. If you just stopped there, it would change everything in your business and your personal life. And then you can go into profile, which you're a 5-1 and all the things, but you don't even need to do that. If it doesn't light you up, so what? If you just understood that and just made that small shift in your life, everything would change.
Well, it sounds like, that part of this is just giving yourself permission. So when you hit that block and you're like, this is frustrating me, number one, I need to recognize it's not aligned. And then number two, I need to kind of consider what the other options are. And then you have to go through that process again of,
Exactly.
how do I feel about this? Is this the right thing? And I need to wait it out. But everyone will have a way that they approach those problems. You remind me, so probably like many listeners, I've done all the assessments, right? I've done Strengths Finder, DISC, Predictive Index, you name it, I've probably done it. I remember Predictive Index specifically because on my chart, it's one of the questions or areas was basically, you like to make decisions, or you can make decisions quickly, but you don't like to. And I remember that because I had worked for many years in a high profile job where I had to make decisions quickly. And I felt very comfortable doing it, but also I felt tense all the time. And when I remember taking that assessment and I had this kind of, that's not me, response. And now knowing my design, I'm like, oh, wait, maybe that, that is me. I can make decisions quickly. I don't like to do it. It doesn't make me feel good. And then sometimes, as you were saying, I might end up making a decision that is not aligned because when I make them quickly, because I haven't given myself time to process that I need.
I don't know about you, but for me, I've learned more from my perceived mistakes than I have my successes ever, as long as we slow down long enough to learn the lesson. Because if you find something that keeps showing up in your life, it's just going to keep showing up until you learn the lesson. You can't get away from it. You got to do the work. You got to pause. And as you probably know, with our childhood, pausing is probably one of the scariest things because we were taught, shove down those emotions because they were painful and we didn't want to experience them. Well, that is what human design does, is that it gives you permission and it gives you a roadmap to understand and to slow down and to pause and to get those little wins and to keep moving forward, because it is pretty terrifying. And it is for most people. If you find yourself saying all the time, I have to figure it out, you're in your head. And that is when you do not make a decision. You really need to feel into it. And the only way to do that is to slow down, regardless of what your strategy is. You have to slow down long enough to listen to your own inner guru, your intuition, whatever you want to call that. We all have it, but most of us have shut it down, and it wakes that up again. And it's so amazing. I'll just say there's nothing better than really understanding yourself and trusting yourself again. It's amazing.
I could not agree more. I think when you get to a point where you understand yourself, it's like everything just flows more freely. You can make decisions easier. You have better connections. Life is smoother. It doesn't mean life is easy. It just means that you're not your own barrier.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
And life gets easier every day that you tap in and you start trusting yourself and you pause and you take the time for self-care, and you get, especially as a generator, you'll probably recognize that when you're feeling really you got to get out and move. You've got to move that energy through your body. That is another way that you can just kind of get out of your head and into your body, is just get out and move. Sitting there and trying to figure it out to solve the problem, it's not a thing. That is fear talking.
Yeah.
And you really need to take a step back.
Yeah. And for me, one of the things I think about when I get really entrenched in something that I'm working on and I maybe feel like I've hit a roadblock, it's really important to take a break. And there's just science behind that, right? It's good for your brain to take a break. You can solve problems when you are not constantly trying to solve them. You got to give your brain space to your brain do its own processing and then come back to it. And it's funny that you say movement, because often when I find myself feeling really tense, I'm like, I'm going to Zumba. I'm going to go dance it out.
Yeah, exactly.
And some people run or whatever it is, but it is important and to understand what is in your profile that helps you to be best at getting that energy out, or get to how you can be best at processing whatever it is that you're processing.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Well, and I want to take this back really quickly to, we started out talking about, your support for people who are business owners. And you also talked about your childhood experience and mine as well, where part of what we are motivated by is stability, especially financial stability. And so a lot of business owners find themselves making decisions because they think I need to do this for financial stability or for consistent income or for whatever it is. And that isn't always necessarily the choice that needs to be made. And so I wonder if you could reflect more on just the human design aspects of it and understanding, how we can navigate some of those insecurities and start to release them so that we can be more in alignment. How do I figure out what the best thing is for me to do right now?
So, well, a few things. One, you don't figure it out. And two, when you're making decisions out of its scarcity, so you're overriding your own internal intelligence, your own internal genius. Because a lot of times, especially as a business owner, you have to take a couple steps back. You may have to pause in order to exponentially move forward. Right at the beginning of starting this business, I took 3 months off. And we really need, I'm like, I know I'm feeling that we're not moving in the direction that we need to. And I just need to be with it. It was one of the hardest things I ever did. And we needed money. We weren't bringing in the income we needed to. I mean, all the things. And so I was afraid, like, oh, if we do this, everything. During that time, I found who you spoke to, the most amazing COO. She just can't, Chris, she's fabulous. This IT genius I happened to just meet. He's the one that came up with Oz, which is turning our business model upside down. I really clicked in and learned so much more. I took that time to learn more about human design. In human design, they call it your fractal line, because what's happening is when you're in that scarcity, you're on a particular frequency. If you think about it as like a radio, right? You're in that. And when you're making decisions from fear, from a scarcity place, you're drawing in other people and circumstances that are in that same space. So it's not necessarily going to move you forward. It's going to add more stress. You may have short-term gains for massive long-term shorts, right? And when I was able to step back, listen to my design, listen to my own authority that said, you're moving too fast. You've made some decisions that aren't going to move you forward. Take a step back. I raised my frequency. I got out of scarcity. I got out of fear, and I relaxed into my body and really was able to hear what I needed to move into. And then people and circumstances started coming to me because I raised my frequency. That is if there's no right or wrong. There's no person that's bad and person that's good. No, we are moving along this line, and we are being drawn to people that are on the same frequency that we are. So when you do that, you're raising your frequency. And life, because I stepped back for 3 months, I know it moved our business forward 1.5 years at least. I'm not saying it was easy. Throughout that 3 months, I had moments of, I can't. We just got to do that. I mean, and I was still paying my team. We're just doing the bare minimum just to keep, I still had some clients that but I mean, we really put a pause. I turned down clients. I really had to pause and look at, okay, the path we're going down. Yes, I've done it for years. I know what it is, but it's not going to give me fulfillment. I have to pause to see what is my next step. The people that do align with us, we can impact profoundly impact their life, but only when we're doing what we were brought here to do.
Brooke, you have set off a light bulb for me. Honestly, it's so funny because I had spent most of my career in public service and only started my company 2 years ago, which has been a lot of fun and really interesting. But it's been a journey of figuring out what's in alignment. And one of the things that I've arrived at is I'm constantly feeling like I'm doing, I never have time to, like you said, to process the decision that I want to make. And so I constantly feel rushed or feel like maybe even just like it doesn't sit right with me. Even if it's not a bad thing, it's just kind of like, it doesn't feel great. And I cleared my calendar in March and I was just like, I need to take a step back. I need to have some time to really just get in touch with like the direction that I want to be going without all of the clutter. And it's really hard to do that. But I think, like you said, it's so important because it can actually move you forward at a faster pace when you're doing it in alignment rather than constantly like fighting all these other currents that are coming in.
Good for you. That's amazing. And I've having worked so long with hundreds of leaders, that is a decision that most won't make. So I really applaud you in that. That's amazing. And I can't wait. You'll have to reach out to me and tell me all the amazing things that came to you.
I definitely am going to. I'm going to follow up because now this just reinforces that that was a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, just trust. That's the thing too, is make sure that you're giving your brain evidence, because our brain learns through communication from others, but most importantly, communication with ourselves. And it doesn't automatically pick up the nuances. So even the smallest win, take note of it. Whether you just have a conversation with yourself, wow, I made this decision, I felt this way, and here's what happened. Give your brain evidence that what you're doing is working. Because the other thing is, our conscious mind is all about keeping us safe. It doesn't care, good or bad. It doesn't know any difference. So you're going to have self-talk that's like, oh, I got to do this. I got to get in motion. I got to and no, stick with what you had planned to do and keep giving. As you're giving your brain evidence, you're making your unconscious mind feel safer. So that then it doesn't fight you so much when you want to make the change.
Oh, I love that. That's great advice. And it reinforces something else. Another recent conversation I had where someone was saying exactly that. Our brains are constantly assessing for threat and we want to make it feel safer. And this is a great tip for one of the ways that we can do that.
Absolutely.
So I'm looking at the time and I know that you've mentioned self-care as a success strategy a couple of times. And so what I'd like to do is ask you the 4 questions that I ask every guest about how you take care of yourself.
For me, I'm a morning person. I love mornings. And I take the first couple hours of my morning and I will journal. I will do breath work, whatever I'm fit, but it's for me. I really take the time that I need and I prioritize it. On my calendar, I block out time for self-care. Whether I'm doing yoga or I'm going to the gym or I'm taking a walk, it is always on my calendar for my team to see, because I want them to do the same thing. We live what we teach, and we talk about it on team calls, and we give ourselves evidence, and that's how we come up with such amazing things to give our members, because we're living it and we're experiencing it, and we can share with them, here's how I felt and here's what happened. So for me, self-care is all about following my joy. I now can wake up in the morning and say, what do I want to do today? What is it that's going to light me up today? And sometimes it's not work. And sometimes it will be, you know what? I just want to go be with my dog or be with my husband or take a walk or take the day. And I do.
I love everything that you were just saying. And I am curious if there is anything where you feel like you would want to improve or where there's something that's still a challenge for you when it comes to self-care.
Oh, all the time do I get stuck in the control loops, right? Or I want to go and because for a long time I thought, well, if you're excited emotions, you can make a decision then. You can follow that. No, any emotion. Neutrality is where all decisions are made. And so I still struggle with that, which is why I have my morning ritual, or I will go right back because it is an ingrained pattern of mine. Overworking, overdoing, controlling in my personal life, I really had to my children are 27 and 23. They don't need me to be worrying about them or making this. I am now, that was probably one of the last things is really looking at my boundaries, like recognizing that people in my family were coming to me with questions that they could completely handle on their own. So that's still where that rub happens a bit.
Okay. So speaking of boundaries, what is something that you find it easy to say yes to?
I find it easy to say yes to anyone when someone comes to me with something that one is something that I can support them with, that it aligns with my purpose in life, and I can see they're really lit up about it. If I don't have the bandwidth, it's very hard for me to say no because I really want to support that. And it's so fun. And so that it's so easy to say yes in supporting someone to live their dream, to live their purpose in life.
So it's so funny that you said it would be hard to say no to that, because that is the second question of this little series, is what is something that is hard for you to say no to? And for some people, it is also the thing that there is easy to say yes to. So I'm curious if you're going to stick with that as your answer.
It really is. And for me, my kryptonite is vulnerability. So when people are vulnerable with me, I really have to even hold tighter to my boundaries because I will step out of my lane if I'm not really focused on, okay, where is this? And a trick that I do for myself is I will tell myself, okay, is this in my best interest? Is it in their best interest? Because what I have found is when you say yes to something that is not in your area, that is not meant for you. And we know when it's meant for us and when it's not, right? And you say yes, you not only hurt yourself, you hurt that other person because there was someone out there that is better suited to support them in this. And you hurt the other person that was meant to support them in that because they don't then get to step into their genius. So you're hurting more than just yourself. And that was a really easy way to help me to break that pattern.
Wow. I have never thought of it that way, but it makes total sense. When you say no, because it's not aligned with you, you are giving space for someone else to step into whatever their path is.
It's a
Yeah.
gift for everyone, all of you. It's a
Oh,
gift.
wow. Well, those are great words to end on. Any parting words before we conclude the conversation for listeners today?
If anyone is interested in finding us, we're at brookemdukes.com. I'm Brooke Dukes on every social media, so we're pretty easy to find.
We will make sure that those links are in the show notes, and anything that came up in the conversation today, we'll make sure that we link it. And Brooke, I really loved this. I just want to keep having this conversation. So thank you so much for being here and for sharing your wisdom with the Work is Third community.
Thank you so much for having me.
I don't know about you, but it really blows my mind to think that saying yes to the wrong thing doesn't just cost you, it costs the person who was actually meant to help. Thank you, Brooke, for this and so many other practical insights. Please follow the show, leave a review, and send this episode to one person who needs permission to stop being the bottleneck. Until next time, remember, work is third. Put yourself first.